Hey, what's up, guys? This video is presented by Matt Bowers Auto Group. If you are in the market for a new or pre-owned car, make sure you head to one of Matt's dealerships. He will make you the best deal. Tell him that NOF sent you. So we're getting ready to head out here for day 9 of training camp, which is kind of crazy. It's moving fast. We're starting to get deep into this thing. It's the last final days of preparation before the team heads out to California. And then 8 days from today, they're going to be playing in their first preseason game against the Chargers. So the clock is actually starting to tick a little bit on training camp. I think today's the line of demarcation where it's no longer early in camp. We are right into the thick of things right now. Still a lot of practices left. Not time to panic over some of the things that aren't going right yet, but I think this is where you want to start to see some momentum build. And I think patience starts to expire on some of those things that you're waiting to see happen. And obviously, at the top of that list, the number one thing that we're waiting to see happen right now is for things to slow down for Tyler Shuck. By no means am I closing the door on his camp or what he can be or anything like that. But I think now is when you start to feel a little bit of that, like, come on, man, let's get this rolling. Let's see what it looks like. I think if you're the coaching staff, that's where you start to make things want to go. I think that's where we're at right now with that situation. And we have seen some good things. There have been some good moments. There have been some good throws. The traits show up, and there have been some bad moments. And there's been some things that you saw in his college film show up in this camp that you want to see him clean up. And I think some of those things happening can create teaching moments, and the coaching staff goes back and fixes them. And you see where Shuck goes from there. And I think that's what you're looking for in this process. I think the weight of everything is extremely, extremely heavy. I think it's easy to overreact early on, but I also think we do have to remember he's a week into his very first training camp as an NFL player. I think where things differ a little bit, though, is that you don't necessarily continue to feel the same way you would about Jackson Dart, who's a lot of years younger in quarterback parlance. This is a guy that's 26 years old. So I think there is a little bit more urgency in this situation, but I also think that you have to grant him the patience and the leniency to settle into a new job. And when you're in a new job shit's gonna happen. I mean, that's just the way it is. You're gonna screw up the process. You have to make mistakes, you have to learn from it, and you have to get better. I just think that timeline has to be accelerated a little bit quicker given to where he's at in his career. And I also think that he's also battling against expectations in next year's quarterback class. This isn't necessarily an Anthony Richardson situation where you're a top 5, top 10 pick and you get 3 years to figure it out. I think you get one in this situation. A second round pick doesn't get the same grace. So it's time to see Shuck start to put it together a little bit here. I still think he can. I don't think it matters what he's doing today. And I don't think the conversation that we're having today matters in the scheme of what it looks like at the end of it. I think if on day 26, 25, 30, whatever it is of camp at the end, if he looks ready to go, you just roll with it. And that's good to go. Now, I do think that Spencer Rattler's starting to stack some days, though. And I think the process we want to see from him is coming together. I think he is getting better. I think he has been the better quarterback in this camp. And I think the ability and the patience and the growth process and all that applies to him exactly the same as it does to Shuck. And I think Rattler is taking advantage of his opportunity right now. And I'm encouraged by what we're seeing with him. However, I will say the same thing. I think he's competing against next year's quarterback class as well. So it is an interesting process right now, but I do think one of these young quarterbacks is looking like he's starting to gel and put it together for what you'd want to see in week 1. And I do think that is kind of exciting. And I think that's something we need to start focusing on as well as what the guy drafted with the 40th pick is doing. So that's interesting to see, starting to see some momentum going together there. But I think things are starting to come together a little bit in this camp on some of the young guys. Kool-Aid's looking good. Brian Brzez's looking good. Those are two things that I think you feel good about. Rashid Shaheed looks great. Chris Olave obviously looks great. So offensive line looks okay. So those are some of the things that we're looking for in this camp that are starting to look like they're coming together. We'll see in the first preseason game how it holds up. But it is a clock starting to tick on the most important position, and it's hard to see anything else until that's settled in the way you want it to be settled, and it might not ever settle the way you want it to settle, or potentially it could at some point, but there's still a lot of variables on that one. And I think the first week of camp, the idea of the magic story, I think that's at least dissipated a little bit, and your swath of variances are now extended in the, you know, more open possibilities on the wrong end of things, but I still think the right end is very much alive, and we'll see how it goes. But this day off coming back from it, I think this is a big day for Shuck. He should be getting the first team reps as far as that rotation goes. So we'll see how that goes. Transaction wise, Shane Lemieux's back. Nick Saldiveri had an injury. I don't know what that means for Saldiveri long term, but it can't be good that he's dealing with something else here. So got a little bit more battle on that backup offensive line situation. Disappointing that this thing just really hasn't been able to get right for Saldiveri health wise. So that's something that isn't great. And then this punter battle, they got a 3-man punter battle going on right now. So excited to see what that one looks like. Kai Kroger's out there competing with Burnup and Hayball. So that kind of adds a little bit of unexpected spice to this camp. So we're going to be keeping an eye on all that stuff. After the show, we're going to have the video breakdown. All of our coverage, all that stuff is going to be on NewOrleans.Football. Make sure you sign up for that. Use the code 20% off your first payment. Get locked in, and we'll talk to you then.